Hello friends, this is Sanchal Antony from the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, AJIT Mangalore. So today we'll be starting with the fourth chapter, intrusion prevention and detection. So as the name suggests, intrusion prevention and detection, here mainly we are dealing with the concept of unauthorized access. So it can be a third party, it can be a hacker, anyone who's trying to have a unauthorized access is something which deals with the concept of intrusion prevention and detection. So when an intruder is trying to have an unauthorized access, how can you prevent it and how can we detect it? This is something which we will be studying in this chapter. So the contents what we will be covering here is the introduction part, where we will be studying the basics of intrusion detection and the intrusion prevention and detection. And next we will be going through what do you mean by prevention versus detection. So what is prevention and what does detection in detail. And next we will be studying related to types of intrusion detection system. Okay, so these are the contents what we will be covering in this section. So moving on to the introduction part. Starting from the introduction part, an intrusion is the act of gaining unauthorized access to a system so as to cause loss or harm. Okay, so this is what is the basic definition for intrusion. So now when we talk in terms of intrusion, it can be a hacker or a third party or else someone who is trying to create some loss or some harm to a other person can be a intruder. Okay, so what he is trying to do is he is trying to have an unauthorized access, not an authorized one, where he is illegally trying to access some data or something into a or through the system. Okay, so because of which he can cause a lot of loss and harm. So examples of an intrusion include the following. First one is unauthorized login to a system by illegally acquiring a password. Now for example, we can say that password guessing attack. Okay, so all these different attacks you might have gone through earlier itself. So the second kind of example is worm infections that use the system as a launch pad to spread and infect other machines. The third one is injection of spyware that passively monitors the activities of the user and relays this information back to the attacker over the internet. Okay, flooding the host with spurious connection requests that attempt to exhaust the target's resource, processing power, memory, and communication bandwidth. So these are all some of the example for intrusion detection. So two ways of handling the attempted intrusions are intrusion detection and intrusion prevention. So the latest stems from the realization that despite our best preventive efforts, intrusion nevertheless do take place. So an analogy with the human disease, we just take an example, might help clarify these two approaches. So modern days alignments like so the modern days elements like diabetes and high blood pressure are known to be linked to the lifestyle choice. So the preventive treatment for these elements include regular exercise, a stress-free life, and a diet rich in fruits and vegetables. However, an individual who strictly follows these three practices cannot be guaranteed freedom from these medical problems. Okay, we know that the regular health checkup, especially for people beyond 50 years, can help prolong life. So in the current context, periodic monitoring of the blood sugar levels and the blood pressure are strongly recommended so that timely action can be taken if there is a deviation from the norms. Okay. The regular health checkups are analogous to intrusion detection, while the positive lifestyle choices are analogous to intrusion prevention. So here we will be looking at the different kinds of intrusion detection systems, and we will also present a case study regarding the difference between the measures intended to provide intrusion detection and prevention. Okay. So next let us see why what is the difference or what do you mean by prevention versus detection. So prevention. So intrusion prevention anticipates various kinds of attacks and takes steps to forestall their occurrences. Take the case of a software vulnerabilities. On the one hand, programmers should adopt practices that help reduce or eliminate software vulnerabilities. The use of safe string manipulation function in C or C++ and the use of parameterized SQL queries are some of the practices recommended to protect against buffer overflow and SQL injection attacks respectively. Okay. Likewise, sanitizing user inputs from the HTML forms is one preventive measure against cross-site scripting attacks. So another set of preventive measures may be taken by the computing system with nothing but the hardware, compiler or an operating system to provide a second line of defense. So here again the buffer overflow vulnerability is a prime example. So making the stack non-executable prevents one class of buffer overflow problem. On the other hand, using a canary value on the stack detects a buffer overflow and thus helps prevent its possible exploitation. So many attacks can be prevented by properly configuring the firewalls, okay, and timely application of software patches. So extensive training should be imparted to system administrators on this and related tasks. Finally, the user should be trained to adhere to sound security practices such as password protection and be educated on the variety of social engineering acts. So one final aspect of intrusion prevention is deterrence. Okay, so hacking, whether for fun or profit, that is what we call ethical hacking or unethical hacking, it is a criminal offense. So the penalty of perpetrating cyber attacks can far outweigh the thrill of successful hacking or financial gain. Disseminating messages such as this can be a serious deterrence or wannabe hackers and cyber criminals. So this is related to the intrusion prevention. So next we'll move on to what do you mean by intrusion detection. So here we have gone through what is meant by intrusion prevention and related to how to look into the intrusion prevention and something related to deterrence. So next we'll see how the detection part is taken care. So you can see in this diagram what are the tasks performed in an intrusion detection system. So we'll just look into it. First it monitors the events of interest. So what are the events of interest? What are the various systems, the network variables, everything will be monitored. Next, it analyzes the recent values or behavior of the variables. Now once the values or behavior matches the attack pattern, if yes, then what you do, you raise an alarm or you alert indicating that there is a intrusion that has happened. If no, you check for any other anomalous behavior. If there is an anomalous behavior, yes, you can raise an alarm, okay, or you can raise an alert. So what happens here is, first it monitors an event of interest occurring in the target system or in the network. So an event of interest may be a system call. That means a call made to the operating system to, for example, open a file containing sensitive data. So another event of interest may be attempted establishment of a TCP connection from a specific IP address to a certain port. Okay, so this can be some of the example. Now next is we'll go to the next step. So you hopefully have understood what happens in detection. First I'll just brief you. First it will monitor the system, various system or the network variables. What are the variables or what are the target system that is there in this the network. Next what it will do, it will analyze the values and the behavior of the variables, how it is dealing with the variable part and what are the recent values that have been used. So once it has been done, what it checks is, it checks whether there is a unwanted behavior or the behavior matches with the attack pattern of anything of that sort. Okay, the values what the hacker uses or what the hacker takes or it gives in. So if it is matching the attack pattern, then what happens? Then what you do, you raise an alarm. If no, you check for any anomalous behavior. If yes, then again you raise an alarm or alert. Okay. the second step, an intrusion detection system generates a large amount of data which it then analyzes and converts its valuable information to be used by the system administrators. So the information gleaned may lead to the conclusion such as the source address is 90% of the packets received in the past 5 minutes are never seen before IP address. So such kind of data or such kind of conclusions can be brought in. Next, third one, the intrusion detection system creates a database of interesting events. So it raises an alert each time it observes any such event. Now for example, we'll just look into it. It might be programmed to raise an alert if more than 70% of the packets received within the last 10 minutes arrive from never seen before IP address. So these are an examples of thresholds and parameters set by humans. On the other hand, it would be highly desirable if the intrusion detection system were capable of learning what is a normal behavior, detecting anomalous events when they occur, and flagging such events. So there are a number of key questions related to the intrusion detection, functioning and deployment. Okay, so we'll just look into what are the important questions that we need to deal with. First thing, what are the variables that the intrusion detection system should monitor? Okay, the variables. Next one, when should an alert be raised? Okay, and when should an alarm be sounded? So both are different. Alert is nothing but when you feel something is going to happen, you raise an alert. Okay, and what do you mean by alarm? When something has happened, you raise an alarm, right? Third one, where should should the intrusion detection system be placed? So these are the three questions that you need to deal with. Next, before attempting to answer these questions, we present a case study related to a password abuse. So this is intended to illustrate the difference between intrusion, prevention and detection. Okay, so based on this case study, we can come up with maybe a simple conclusion related to an unauthorized user login. The case study is nothing but an unauthorized user logins that has been told. Just look into it what it states. Okay, so to prevent the unauthorized login owing to compromised passwords, this should be the following should be adhered here. First one, a password should be at least 8 character long. Okay, certain things which we regularly be saying it. Okay, the password should be at least 8 characters long, hard to guess, and include at least one non-alpha numeric character. So whenever you set the password, this is general instruction that has been given to each and every users who will be setting a password, right? Set a password for 8 characters long, and it should be hard to guess, and at least try to include one alphanumeric character or maybe a special character, right? Okay, not don't go with the pattern which can allow dictionary attacks, which you have studied in the previous topic. Next one, the password should be changed at least once in 2 months. May be possible, may not be possible, but this is something which you can do it in order to keep your account safe enough. Okay, once in 2 months. Next, password should be stored securely, not written on a sticker pads, and should not be communicated to friends, relatives and co-workers. This is something regularly you get in as an intimation from all the banks or any of the sectors which you have secure password, like keep changing your password regularly, remember the password and don't share the password, and no one will ask you the password. Okay, so this is related to third point. Fourth one is, after 3 consecutive unsuccessful attempts to a specific account, the system should be designed to disable all further logins attempts for the next 20 minutes. That means the script of this rule is important, through the actual numbers may vary. Okay, so now sometimes what will happen, 3 wrong attempts on a password, your login can be locked, your account can be locked. This is something applicable in your bank accounts and all those things, banking phase, or sometimes your Facebook account. See, there are different accounts based on which you have an unsuccessful attempt, your system, your accounts will be locked. Okay, now next thing, rule 1 and 2 should be observed by the user, though they can be made, they must be enforced by the system, and rule 3 involves the user alone. because how the user is storing it securely, it is something related to the user itself. And user rule 4 involves the system alone. Okay, now what happens, this is something which regularly we need to deal with. These rules are all measure intended to prevent intrusion. So as a further preventive measure, a high security organization may mandate a two-factor authentication. First one is password in conjunction with the biometrics. This is something which is really safe enough. So in addition to prevention, an intrusion detection system may also be deployed to monitor suspicious login. For example, consider an employer who for 5 years has never logged in outside the office hours between 9 a.m. and 5 a.m. If now after 5 hours the same user were to log in at 4 a.m., the intrusion detection system should raise an alarm, right? Consider that the 10 unsuccessful logins have been made to the same login account over a 2-hour period. That means an intrusion detection system should be smart enough to sense a password guessing attack even if these login attempts were sufficiently spaced out. Okay. Now it should respond by disabling all further login attempts until the system administrator has been alerted. Okay, so this is something related to a case study where an unauthorized user login or unauthorized user tries to log in and he gets into trouble. Okay, so this is related to the intrusion detection system. Okay, now the last two mechanisms are reactive. They monitor the system for anomalous activities and trigger an alert when suspicious activity is observed. The password protection approaches, on other hand, and preventive and designated or designed to, the password protection approaches, on other hand, are preventive and designed to minimize the possibility of a break-in. So this is related to the unauthorized user login. So now all these 3 or 4 points that you have seen are been regularly used and been regularly told in all the transactions you do in order to have a safe transaction, right? So next we will see regarding the types of intrusion detection system. Next we will see what are the types of intrusion detection system. So real world intrusion detection monitors and mines hundreds of variables for interesting patterns. So next slide I will be showing you a table which is related to the events of interest in an intrusion detection system. Okay, so that shows a sample of variable together with the condition that may trigger an alert. So what are the conditions that can trigger an alert? So some of the variables are mere bit patterns in the packet header or the packet payload. So other variables are the count of certain occurrences with the time interval. So we next classify the intrusion detection system based on their functionality. So here we have got two kinds of intrusion detection system based on the functionality. First one is anomaly versus signature based intrusion detection system, and second one is host based or versus network based intrusion detection system. So before that let us see some of the events of the interest in the intrusion detection system. So this is a table that shows the events of interest in an intrusion detection system. Okay, so there are 3 contents. First one is the variables that are monitored, second one is the event of interest, so and third one is the possible attacks that is based on the two possibility values of the variables monitored and the event of interest. Next one, so we'll see what is it. The first one is number of access to a specific file. Now someone is trying to access a same file again and again, so that means 10-fold increase over normal. That means if someone is trying to access the file more than a specific number of times, that means a denial of service attack or a flash event is happened there. Okay, so this is a possible attack that has occurred. The second one, login frequency to particular account. So now for example, if someone is trying to log into a specific account, not once, twice, but generally someone logs into the account once or twice, doesn't matter, but specifically if it is trying to, or if someone is trying to trying to use the account, or he wants to find out the password of the account, so that means he is trying to break it, right? So that is what is happening there. So now what is the event of interest? So what happens there is unusually it's high. That means the tendency of the person logging into a specific account, if it is unusually high, that means there is an attempted break-in that is happening. May be or may not be a condition there. Okay. Next one, number of distinct source IP address of an arriving packet. Now, for example, as I told you in the previous session of worm attack, you have seen if there is a specific number of source from a specific IP address source, if there is more number of packets that is arriving, and if the content of the, if it is usually very high, okay, that means when compared to the normal flow, if it is very high, that means there is a worm attack. Okay, so worm attack you need to really look into. Next one, a ratio of ARP request packets to ARP response packet. Now, what do you mean by ARP? It is nothing but the address resolution protocol. Okay, so the response of the ratio of the address resolution protocol request packet to ARP, the address resolution protocol response packet. If it is greater than 1, that means the network scan to identify the local active host. Next one is ratio of TCP, that is transmission control protocol packets, okay, to the transmission FIN packets. Okay, there is something called as SYN and FIN. FIN states that it is finished sending data, and FIN, okay, finished sending data, if you want just make a note of it, and SYN is synchronize the sequence. Okay, SYN is synchronize the sequence, FIN is finished sending the data. So ratio of the transmission control protocols sequence data to the transmission control protocols finished sending data packets, if it is greater than 1, again possible of denial of service attack. Now, the percentage of half open TCP connection, then there is a sudden surge that indicates that there is a possible of denial of service or distributed denial of service attack. Next one, TCP header flags. If there is an invalid combination of the TCP header flags, that header files, okay, invalid combination of a TCP header flags, that means the port is getting scanned or the OS fingerprinting is being taken place. Same thing, if there is a TCP connection establishment, okay, if unused destination port has been used, that means an attempt to find which service are open. So now these are all some of the events. Next one, payload of incoming packet. So when it is a payload of incoming packet, a specific bit sequence present, that means a specific worm attack has been happening. Last one, OS calls, particular sequence of calls, that means system calls. Okay, this is something which you have discussed in the previous session. Okay, when you have specific sequence calls regularly getting activated, then that means there is a specific virus attack. So this is some of the events of interest to an intrusion detection system. So anomaly based intrusion detection involves making a determination whether the behavior of the system is statistically significant departure from normal. The intrusion detection system will have to learn over time what constitutes normal activity, usage and behavior. Moreover, the definition of what is normal may vary as a function of time of day to day of the week. So what is normal may also vary from one host to another host. Okay, so it depends upon what is the normal behavior and all those things based on the different parameters or day to day activities, or maybe the day to day events, or maybe based on the host. The first 6 conditions that was told in the previous table, okay, are examples of what are anomaly based intrusion detection system. Okay, and would monitor. So this 6 conditions what you have seen in the previous table, that is nothing but number of access to specific file, login frequency to particular account, number of distinct source IP addresses to arriving packet, then ratio of ARP request packets to ARP response packet, ratio of TCP sync packet to TCP FIN packet, and percentage of half open TCP connection, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, so these 6 are something related to the intrusion detection system anomaly based model. Okay, so consider monitoring of the number of TCP sync packet with the SYN flag set, that is, as I told you, the okay, when we were discussing regarding the events. Okay, so we saw something related to the sync. I told you what you mean by sync is nothing but synchronize the sequence. Okay, so now that is nothing but a flag. So sync flag, then fin flag, these are all the flags that have been set. So there are various number of flags when we deal with the concept, when we study the TCP header format. Okay, I just if you want, I just tell what are all the header files. So fin, sync, SYN, reset, RST, then PSH push, acknowledgement, urgent, ECE, okay, congestion window reduce, CW. These are all some of the flags that are used in TCP header. Okay, so now when we deal with the concept of the anomaly based intrusion detection system, so monitoring the number of TCP sync packets and fin packets, okay, set within the fin flag set in each successive 10-second interval. A disproportionate number of sync packets vice versa fin packets indicate several half open TCP connection and possibly the onset of the sync flooding attack. So we discuss this prevention and detection of this attack in a greater detail in the next session. Okay, now something related to signature based intrusion detection system. So in a signature based intrusion detection system, also called as a misuse detection, works by identifying specific pattern of events or behavior that portend or accompany an attack. Okay, so a signature based intrusion detection system maintains a database of known signature. So it attempts to obtain a match between the currently observed behavior of the system and an entry in this database. So a real world signature based intrusion detection system will have thousands of attack signature against which a compare will be done. Now an example of this attack signature to a specific byte sequence in a worm payload. Okay, so to an anomaly based intrusion detection system, it is the absence of normal behavior that presages an attack, while to a signature based intrusion detection system, it is a presence of a specific signature that raises an alert. Okay, so detecting a 0-day worm, one whose signature is not included in the database of an intrusion detection system, is a challenge. So on the other hand, it is possible that the spread of the worm has caused much network traffic congestion and greatly increased CPU utilization with infected machine. So in this case, what will happen, it is more likely that the anomaly based intrusion detection system will detect the attack, but the later may be unable to pinpoint the exact cause of the anomaly. So this is the difference between anomaly based intrusion detection system and signature based intrusion detection system. Okay, so now here as I told you, it's purely based on determination whether the behavior of the system is statistically significant or not. Okay, and signature based intrusion, as I told you, it mainly deals with the specific pattern of event or behavior, which is mainly dealing with the signature part. So now this is what you mean by anomaly based intrusion detection system and signature based intrusion detection system. So this is some of the this is one type of intrusion detection system. Okay, so as I told you, one more thing you need to remember is, out of the table what we have taken the consideration, the first 6 are mainly used in the as a part of an anomaly based intrusion detection system. So just go through it. They may ask what are the different types of intrusion detection system. So you may have to differentiate between what is an anomaly based intrusion detection system and what is a signature based intrusion detection system. So next we move on to what do you mean by host based versus the network based intrusion detection system. So an intrusion detection system that captures information about the packets flowing through the network is referred to as network based intrusion detection system. Okay, now for reason of performance, it is common to have standalone appliances that perform network based intrusion detection. These typically run only the intrusion detection system and are hence not vulnerable to various worms or virus attacks. So they may be deployed at multiple points in a large organization. Okay. Now, a host-based intrusion detection system is typically implemented in software and resides on the top of the host operating system. Now, what is the main job of the host-based operating system? Its main job is to monitor the internal behavior of the host, such as the sequence of number system calls made, the files accessed, etc. So for this purpose, what happens is it makes the system log, the application log, and the operating system audit trials to identify events related to the intrusion. Now, the operating system logs, for example, keeps track of when the user logs in. That is one thing. Okay, the number of unsuccessful login attempts, the commands executed, the network connection made, etc. So there are different other parameters that the operating system log looks into. Okay, so the application logs keep track of which files have been opened or which registry keys have been accessed during the run of an application. So which all files are associated with the given application, and during the running of this application which all files have been opened, everything will be taken care. Okay, so they also monitor what system calls were made and in what order they were made. Now, keeping track of the modified files and the file attributes, okay, we can play keeping tracks of the modified files and file attributes can play a key role in the host based intrusion detection. Now, for example, a change in the content of the core system library should arouse suspicion since they are rarely modified, if ever. So, file system integrity checkers, for example, compute a cryptographic hash for the contents of each file. Now, what they do? They detect file changes by comparing the computed hash of a file to its stored hash. Okay, so this is related to network based intrusion detection system and host based. So as I told you, network based is mainly dealing with the capture, they mainly dealt with the capturing of the information about the packets that flow through the network, and host based are typically implemented in the software and resides at the top of the host operating system. Now, the two desirable features of an intrusion detection system are speed and accuracy. So speed is especially important in fast spreading internet worm. For example, early worm detection and an early response mechanism such as automated system shutdown can help reduce the number of infected machines. So the intrusion detection system should be able to detect every instance of an intrusion. Now, for example, an undetected intrusion is referred to as false negative. Okay, so given the importance of not missing out any intrusion, an intrusion detection system may go on board and react to even in unwanted or unknown events. We say that the intrusion detection system generates a false positive if the alarm if it raises an alarm even though there is no intrusion currently occurring or about to occur. So the two aspects of intrusion detection system accuracy are sensitivity and selectivity. So high sensitivity implies a low false negative rate, while a high selectivity implies a low false positive rate. Okay.